Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to the No DQ live recap of Monday Night Raw for October the 5th, 2020. Maybe the most noteworthy Raw since the Thunderdome era began. Quite the interesting show tonight, a lot to discuss, so we're getting right into it here. Shout out to everybody in the chat room for watching live, and thank you to everybody watching on demand as well. We kicked off Monday Night Raw with the Viper Randy Orton in the same room where last week he used his night goggles to beat up the Legends. He talked about Clash of Champions, how he left in an ambulance, did not remember the ambulance ride, but he remembered everything else when he got beat down from all the various Legends during that match. And then he saw the beginning of Raw, saw how they all celebrated with Drew McIntyre, the WWE Champion, and then they went backstage and played some poker. He said that for every action, there is a reaction. And he said that what he did was a reintroduction to the Legend Killer. He said that Drew still has hell to pay, and Drew McIntyre's legacy will depend if he can survive hell in a cell. That's right. Drew McIntyre will defend the WWE Championship against Randy Orton inside Hell in a Cell. It looks like the two men's world title matches will be the cell matches for this year. Drew McIntyre showed up, and there was a fight between the two of them. Officials broke it up, and then Drew had this to say. He told Randy Orton that this is just the beginning. Nice opening segment to the show. I liked Randy Orton's promo, and he set up the Hell in the Cell match. Good stuff here. We had our first match of the evening, which was Zelina Vega teaming up with Natalya and Lana against the Raw Women's Champion, Asuka, Mandy Rose, and Dana Brooke. Pretty standard match here. Not much to say about it. Short match, too. You had Mandy Rose tagging in and hitting the pump knee strike to pin Lana, of course. It's always Lana taking the pin. I think Lana has lost every week for the past 2 months or so now. TJS with a $2 super chat says, 5 tag matches on this show, letter grade F. I'm not sure if TJS is being serious or not, but you guys can debate with him. Maybe he'll clarify his remarks as JK, or maybe not. Caleb Jacobs with a $5.62 super chat. Thank you, Caleb. Says, after his 17th title, do you think John Cena will become the Intercontinental Champion to become a Grand Slam champion, just like Sheamus with the IC title? No, I think the 17th world title will be John Cena's final championship, and that will be the end of his career. But thank you for that, Caleb. And remember, guys, hashtag stick to the topic. And TJS says he is serious. He thinks it was easily the worst Raw of the year. Wow. I'm a little surprised by that from TJS. Psycho Jet Black with the $2 super chat. Thank you. He says, will Zelina be buried now because of the Union tweet? That remains to be seen. We did have Paige go on Twitter and talk about how she's been learning about unions, and then Zelina replied basically expressing interest. We'll see. Time will tell. I mean, it's hard to know because I feel like Zelina's push is already over with. She's moving back down the card. She had her 2-week push against Asuka, and maybe not. Maybe it'll continue. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Anyways, after this opening match, Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler returned after their 1-week absence. They attempted to put Natalya through the table, but Lana wanted to help her friend. She tried to intervene, and then Lana, for the third time, 3 times in 4 weeks, because Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler were not on Raw last week, Lana got put through the announce table via the Samoan drop from Nia Jax. Like I said the other week, this should just happen every week as long as Lana's part of WWE. This should be a running joke where every week she gets put through the table. Backstage, we had R-Truth, who was doing a mock draft. Now, this coming Friday, we have night 1 of the 2020 WWE draft, and then next Monday on Raw, we'll have part 2. There was a janitor that appeared, and R-Truth referred to him as Randy Orton because last week Orton was wearing this janitor outfit before he attacked the legends in the locker room. Then you had R-Truth ending up on the floor, and he was pinned by this janitor who turned out to be, well, no surprise here, Drew Gulak, who is hell-bent on being the 24/7 champion. That is now his life mission. I do not care about this feud. I have little to no interest in this feud. We had MVP backstage, and he had a chat with Team Apollo. He talked about the draft being next week and on Friday's Smackdown. He said that he is offering them a one-night opening to be part of the Hurt Business. Apollo and Ali walked off. They were having none of it, but Ricochet stood there and looked like he was considering his options. We had a recap of the Rey Mysterio family drama, and this led to Seth Rollins and Murphy in the ring cutting a promo. Rollins wanted the microphone, but Murphy said he had to get something off his chest. He said that he's done everything Rollins has asked, plus more. He said he needs an apology from Rollins, and at the very least, an apology to Mysterio's daughter, Aaliyah. Rollins grabbed the mic. He was very angry. He said that he saved Murphy. He is the Messiah. Murphy is the disciple. And Rollins said he could have exposed all of the DMs. And this led to Dominic and Humberto Carrillo coming out. There was a fight between all four competitors. And then after the commercial break, we had a tag team match. Rollins was yelling at Murphy about not needing to tag in. Humberto tagged in, cleaned house. Rollins and Murphy were on the outside. They were arguing. You had Humberto do a dive onto both of them as they were arguing. And then back in the ring, Humberto was coming off the top rope, but Murphy caught him with a knee and scored the pinfall victory. Then Murphy stormed off, still upset about what was going on with Seth Rollins. Charles Coleman with a $3 super chat says, where will Apollo Crews go now? Good question. Maybe back to SmackDown. More than likely go into catering. Maybe Apollo and Ricochet will join up with the Hurt Business to fight off Retribution. But we'll get to that in a little bit. I got to stick to the topic here and not jump too far ahead. I liked everything that happened here with Murphy and Rollins. Good stuff here to continue building up that storyline. We had Braun Strowman, who is still technically part of SmackDown. He approached Adam Pearce backstage and he said, yeah, he knows there's no Raw Underground segment, but he did not show up there to the arena and not have a fight. He said he wants to have some kind of physical contact, and Pearce said they cannot do a match, but they can do an unsanctioned match. Then we had Keith Lee show up and told Adam Pearce to sign him up. And they hyped this up, Braun Strowman versus Keith Lee in an unsanctioned match for Monday Night Raw. I'm a little surprised their first encounter being given away on Raw and not saving it for a pay-per-view, but oh well, it is what it is. We had Seth Rollins confronting Murphy backstage, and Rollins said he apologizes for nothing. What he does is for the greater good, and Murphy is the one that needs to apologize. And furthermore, Rollins told Murphy that Murphy has until 10 p.m. to apologize, or there will be hell to pay. Next up, we had the KO show. Kevin Owens back on Raw following his appearance on Smackdown. He talked about being put in the mandible claw on Smackdown by The Fiend and how he was paralyzed. And he brought up how all of these tortured souls are out to get him. And he wondered if the Brood is going to come back and try to take him out, or the Ministry of Darkness. All of a sudden, we had a Firefly Funhouse segment on the big screen. And we had Bray Wyatt say that Kevin Owens is his new friend. And the puppets were worried about the draft being sent to different brands. And Bray said not to worry, friends stick together. He even wrote a song. He started singing this song, which was so cringy, maybe Kurt Angle would sound like John Lennon in comparison. We then had Owens have his rebuttal, and he said that Bray Wyatt is just a demented Mr. Rogers reboot. And he basically called out Bray to the ring, but Bray was not coming out, so Owens said he would come to Bray Wyatt. He left the ring and was walking up the stage when he was blindsided by Aleister Black. Black took him out with the Black Mass. Good segment here, no real issues with it. Although the Bray Wyatt scene was quite painful, to say the least. But of course, it's supposed to be that way. I guess Bray's back to being a heel now. He had like that 1 week where they were kind of teasing a babyface run. Backstage, we had Drew McIntyre cutting a promo and said, "What the hell is wrong with Randy Orton?" He obviously accepts the challenge, and it's not Drew being locked in the cell with Randy. It's Randy being locked in the cell with Drew. And with his legacy on the line, Drew McIntyre said that it'll be Randy Orton who gets sent straight to hell. We had Braun Strowman versus Keith Lee in the unsanctioned match where the outcome does not count on the win-loss record. Charles Coleman with a $5 super chat says, "Why does WWE do a brand-to-brand invitation? Seeing a Raw superstar on SmackDown and vice versa should be a shock now. It doesn't matter." Ratings, that's all I can tell you, is that it's done to try and get the numbers up for the TV shows. Caleb Jacobs with a $2 super chat. Thank you, Caleb. He says, "Just for the record, there was only one Mr. Rogers." Well, I agree on that, but Bray Wyatt is more like a demented version of Mr. Rogers. Bray Wyatt is Bray Wyatt. He's a demented version of Mr. Rogers. Thank you guys for the super chats. So anyways, this was just a quick fight between Strowman and Keith Lee. They collided with each other in the ring. Strowman drop-kicked Lee to the outside, and they were fighting on the outside. Lee got thrown into the steps, and then the referee counted to 10. Both guys were counted out. Match went about a minute, 2 minutes. Strowman was pissed off about this. He tackled Lee through the barricade. They broke the barricade. Referees came out. Lee managed to get back to his feet. He went after Strowman. They fought up the stage. Lee threw Strowman into the staging area and then tackled Strowman off of the stage through the platform below. And that was that. That was the first Strowman versus Keith Lee encounter, but I guess technically it wasn't a match. And it doesn't count towards the win-loss record. So TJS, I know you brought up Keith Lee's record in WWE. This one doesn't count, buddy, so you cannot be mad about this one. But yeah, TGS asked me about the booking of Keith Lee. It's not what I would do if it was me. I would just book Keith Lee in matches against enhancement guys and kind of do what you did with Goldberg and Ryback and Strowman in 2016. Just have them come out week after week and destroy people and build them up that way instead of putting them in these immediate marquee matches, and then you don't want to have a decisive winner, so you do DQs and countouts and no contests and whatnot. Charles Coleman with a $4 super chat. Thank you, Charles. He says, I cannot take Braun Strowman serious since losing to Lesnar. Well, that was definitely the beginning of the end for him. I would say he was still salvageable, but it was never the same for me personally. The tag match with Nicholas, I think, brought him down a peg. And then that heel turn really made me sour on him. And then he started doing the comedy for a while. WrestleMania, they rebounded him a little bit, but then it kind of became a joke again. So yeah, it's tough to take Braun pretty serious at the moment. But I did like what they presented here with these guys, and I'm sure they'll fight again. I feel like it's probably going to be Strowman going to Raw. I suppose Keith Lee could go to SmackDown, but my feeling is Strowman's basically part of Raw now, and they're going to keep him away from Roman. We had another Bianca Belair segment. This time, she was proven that she is the smartest. And she was there with a group of friends. They were doing trivia, and she had all this knowledge. She was dropping knowledge on everybody. And I actually thought this was the best segment for her so far. Caleb Jacobs with a $2 super chat says, after my dad left, Mr. Rogers was my hero as a kid. As he was for a lot of people. Mr. Rogers, definitely an icon for people all around the world. Thank you for that super chat, Caleb. We had Drew Gulak backstage celebrating his 24/7 title victory because, hey, it's the closest thing to a championship that he's ever going to have. R-Truth appeared, and Gulak knocked over this trash bin. Tozawa was revealed to be inside the trash bin. Then they all ended up in a bigger trash bin, and somehow the referee figured out that R-Truth was pinning Gulak in the trash bin and counted 1, 2, 3. R-Truth is your 42nd, 42-time champion. I don't know. I do not care. Every week, I just want this to be over. Please. We had Ricochet and Apollo Crews against Lashley and Shelton Benjamin. But before I get to that, the game is on 100 with a $2 super chat. Thank you for that. Says, R-Truth has more title wins in WWE history, LOL. Yeah, if you want to consider the 24/7 title a legitimate championship, of course. So we had this tag match, and beforehand, MVP cut a promo, his usual pre-match promo. He says Team Apollo did not beat them last week. They only won a match, but they did not win the fight. He blamed it on Retribution, and he warned Teabag and the rest of the crew to fold. I like the Teabag reference there. Team Apollo came out, talked about how Ali said when he gets pushed, he pushes back. Remember this for later. And Apollo said MVP just makes excuses. And Ricochet said, as far as joining the Hurt Business goes, it's a pass. MVP was angry, told the referee to ring the bell, and told Lashley to focus on Ricochet. We had the match between these teams, and during the match, a countdown appeared on the screen for when Murphy would have to answer Seth Rollins about an apology. Crews got the hot tag, cleaned house for a while, but then Lashley took control again, put on the Hurt Lock, and Apollo tapped out again. Going back to earlier, Apollo could go back to SmackDown, but probably more than likely he goes back to catering. D. Martin the Fifth with a $5 super chat. Thank you very much for that, D. Martin. I appreciate it. He says, what if little Jimmy was the one to pin Drew Gulak in the trash bin and handed the 24/7 title to R-Truth? Hey, that's an idea. I'm not suggesting that WWE goes with that, but yeah, you could say that technically R-Truth lost the title and then Drew Gulak got beat by Little Jimmy, and Little Jimmy is actually the champion. I mean, whatever. The whole thing's so ridiculous. And Charles Coleman with a $5 super chat. Thank you for that, Charles. He says, do you think R-Truth will go into the Hall of Fame for winning the 24/7 title 100 times? Ridiculous. Probably. I mean, I think R-Truth is going to go in the Hall of Fame. He's not Hulk Hogan or John Cena or The Rock, but he's been an entertaining act. If I hate to do this line, but it's always my go-to. If Coco Beware can get in, R-Truth can get in. If the Bushwhackers can get in, R-Truth can get in. He's going to be in the Hall of Fame. So we all better get used to it. And you know what? For a lower card guy, R-Truth has had a pretty memorable run. You know, going back to the K-Quick days, not very noteworthy, but then he came back in 2009, and he's had some fun moments over the past decade. So, yeah, I think it's pretty likely, highly likely in all likelihood, that he goes into the Hall of Fame at some point. We had Murphy running into Aaliyah backstage, and he apologized to her, and she just wanted to know if he was going to apologize to to Rollins, and he walked off. We had the Hurt Business backstage celebrating their win. Ali confronted them and said he wants all three of them to be at ringside because he's going to take care of all three of them. And boy, was he right. Psycho Jet Black with a $5 super chat. Thank you for that, Psycho. He says, seriously, why was Ember Moon chasing the 24/7 championship when she was on Raw? It was those segments that got her injured and almost cost her her career. Yeah, I do not know what the deal with that was, although Triple H did state after the NXT TakeOver pay-per-view that there was talk about having Ember Moon move back to SmackDown, or not SmackDown, NXT, I should say. It was dumb to have her in the segment in the first place, in my opinion. I guess they had nothing for her at the time, and maybe that's why the NXT move was being considered. So we had this segment here that was being hyped up. The countdown was over. Instead of Raw Underground, we had this. Seth Rollins came to the ring. He said he's awaiting the apology. Murphy came to the ring. Rollins said this can be simple. All Murphy has to do is apologize and they can move forward. Murphy did not respond. Rollins then started to get upset. He said he saved Murphy's career. He kept getting angrier. He grabbed Murphy by the beard. And then Murphy finally snapped. He attacked Rollins. The two of them brawled on the outside of the ring. Murphy got a kendo stick. They were back in the ring, and Rollins was trying to beg off. He was calling out for Aaliyah. He then apologized. He said he's sorry. Murphy then let his guard down, and that led to Rollins going after Murphy, taking advantage of the situation. He started to put his thumb into the eye of Murphy, both thumbs, I should say, into both eyes. And Rollins got the kendo stick, started using it. He then went for a chair. Aaliyah came into the ring to shield off her man, Murphy. Dominic and Rey Mysterio ran down, and Rollins took his leave. Hell of a segment here. This was the big breakup of Rollins and Murphy that I think we were all waiting for, and we were all figuring it would happen sooner than later. I liked it. Good stuff here. And my gut feeling is this will probably be Rollins' last program before Becky Lynch gives birth. I could see him taking some time off just like Daniel Bryan has taken time off. And yeah, that would be a nice rub for Murphy to beat Rollins and send Rollins packing for a while. I suspect that's where it's going, and this should be a pretty big storyline for Murphy to elevate him and take him to the next level. I liked it. Well done here by everybody involved. And Psycho Jet Black with a $2 super chat says, why didn't Rollins get more members for his group? Well, he did. He had a couple of people. He had the AOPP, and was that it? Maybe it was just the four of them. But yeah, AOPP, and then there was an injury, and it was down to two, and he got no substitute. Why he got no substitute, I don't know. Oh, he did have Austin Theory, and then Theory was called out in the speaking out movement. So Rollins did not have much luck as far as keeping his disciples around. The only one that was able to not get hurt or not get in trouble was Murphy. And look what he did to the poor guy. He took him for granted. We had a tag team match between Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler defending their championships against the Riot Squad. Pretty much a one-sided match. Nia and Shayna beat the crap out of Riot. Baszler did her joint manipulation, stomped on the arm, and you had Liv Morgan in the corner crying. Somehow, we had Riot make the tag. She managed to pull it off. Liv got in the ring, had a little bit of momentum, and then Ruby tagged back in. The Riot Squad worked together a little bit, but in the end, you had Baszler get Riot in the Karafuda clutch. Riot tapped out, of course, and Liv pulled Baszler off and was crying again. I liked this. I liked the beat down and making the champs look strong, and I like how Liv Morgan is loyal to her bestie. I thought that was a nice touch. So good stuff here. Caleb Jacobs with a $2 super chat. Thank you, Caleb. Says, about Murphy and Ray's daughter, I told you so. What did you tell me? I'm sure a lot of people probably had the same prediction as you, Caleb. Just saying. But thank you for the super chat. We had Ali versus MVP, and this was our next big angle on the show. We had the Hurt Business get into the ring. They were surrounding Ali. They were going to take him out. When all of a sudden, the lights started flickering. The Retribution logo appeared. And they were back. Like the tag team champions, they missed 1 week. I guess they quarantined long enough. They're back. And they surrounded the ring. Ali then was in the ring with the Hurt Business, acted like he was going to help them, but then he slipped to the outside of the ring. He got in the faces of Retribution, and then he turned around. He turned around, and he told Retribution to get him. And that's what they did. They got in the ring. They beat the crap out of the Hurt Business. They threw Lashley into the steel steps. Samoa Joe was freaking out, talking about how Ali has probably been planning this for a long time. Ali got in the ring, and he celebrated with Retribution. Great angle here. This could possibly save it. Ali is the guy that I feel makes the most sense for this, because he has reasons to be mad at WWE, all the frustrations. WWE can play up on real life and implement it into the storyline. And a lot of times, the best storylines are the ones that channel real life. Ali legitimately lost his opportunity for the WWE title, and WWE had to book Kofi Kingston in his place. Kofi caught fire and became WWE champion, and Ali was forgotten about. It works. It works in the sense of the storyline. Ali looking for retribution. And we had the hacker storyline from earlier this year, which was never resolved. And I don't know if WWE actually thought this all out. My guess is probably no, but they certainly can work this in their favor And they can say, hey, Ali was the hacker all along. He was screwing with WWE for almost a year now. And Retribution was all part of his act. He recruited some of his good friends from NXT, the ones that were the most supportive of his cause. They joined him. He got them the contracts. And he's getting his retribution. And you can also drop the gimmicks with the costumes and the names. Let T-Bar be Dijak. Let me have my middle name back. You can have Mia Yim as herself. You can have Shane Thorne as himself. You can have Mace drop the costume and the gimmick and everything. Maybe you could keep the name Mace. I don't know. Mace is the one decent name in my opinion. So if they drop the costumes, just let them be themselves. Let Ali talk about everything I mentioned. I do think that this Retribution storyline can be salvaged. I really do. So yeah, very promising here. I like the review, and for the first time in a while, I'm curious to see where this goes. Charles Coleman with a $3 super chat says, why are two heel groups fighting? Doesn't make sense. You got to have somebody step up to Retribution. And just like with the NWO and WCW, you had the Four Horsemen and the Dungeon of Doom feuding with the NWO, even though Dungeon of Doom were heels. So to me, that's not a big deal. And you could turn the Hurt Business into faces. And again, like I said earlier, maybe you could have Apollo and Ricochet join them and they could be a super babyface group. You could do that. TGS with the $2 super chat says, we needed a big star. Chad Gable would be better. All right, I think TGS is really trolling now. I cannot imagine he's serious. Chad Gable? Come on now. And Ali has that built-in storyline already with everything that's happened over the past year and a half. I mean, Chad Gable would make sense for Retribution, but a lot of people are very high on Ali right now, and I just think he's a better fit. Although I have seen some people criticize Ali being the guy because, well, he's somebody of Middle Eastern descent being part of a so-called terror group, so people think it's in bad taste. And I'm like, well, whatever. I mean, Ali's getting this big push, or at least he's going to get this big push now, which is something people have wanted for a long time. Even Mick Foley said if this is leading to a big push for Ali, he's all for it. And Psycho Jet Black with a $2 super chat, thank you for that, says, the Shorty G gimmick has killed Chad Gable's career. Pretty much. I mean, I think Chad Gable needs to just go back to NXT. I mean, that's really the only way I could see his career being salvaged. And TGS says, who will boo Ali? Well, the fans will boo whoever they're instructed to boo. A friend of mine was in the Thunderdome, and apparently he got kicked out for booing the Hurt Business during the tag team match because the Thunderdome fans were instructed to boo the Hurt Business, and he started cheering them, so they kicked him out. And yes, I didn't want to mention him by name, but it was Carl Apocalypse in the chat room, but I didn't want to actually mention his name unless he was okay with it. He was the one that got kicked out. But yeah, I did like this reveal with Ali a lot, and I think there's a lot of potential for it. And again, play off real life and just make him whiny. That's how you get him booed. He comes out there and he whines and he complains. So you exaggerate real life and you make it sound like, man, this guy just needs to shut up and not complain. And that's the way to go with it. You know, he has some valid points, but he doesn't know when to shut up. And Psycho Jet Black with a $2 super chat says, Carl Apocalypse is an awesome name. Oh, I agree 100%. I dig the name for sure. And I like Psycho Jet Black too. We had our main event segment, which was a 6-man tag team match. Randy Orton teaming up with Bobby Roode and Dolph Ziggler against the Street Profits and the WWE Champion Drew McIntyre. Randy Orton immediately slipped to the outside of the ring to distract Drew, and that worked. Robert Roode got some offense on McIntyre. Roode, by the way, cut his hair already. I'm surprised he didn't cut it for his return. It was weird to me that he came back with his quarantine hair, and then the next week after his return, he cuts it. Maybe it was a last-minute thing. I wonder if he literally got the call like a day before the show to fly out to Florida and appear on Raw, and he did not have time to get a haircut. That was just weird to me, how the first week he's back, he's got his quarantine hair, and then it's gone the next week. Why not just cut it before the return? But nonetheless, tag match was pretty good here. As JSpin401 says, it was a glorious haircut. You got Drew McIntyre getting the hot tag, and then Dawkins tagged in. Randy Orton got the upper hand. He was going for the RKO, but then Dawkins hit the anointment, tagged in Montez Ford. Ford did the big splash off the top, but it was broken up by Roode and Ziggler. Drew tagged back in, and you had Ziggler hit the Fameasser to Ford, and then Drew responded with a Claymore to Ziggler, Claymore to Bobby Roode as well, but then he turned around, got hit with the RKO, and Randy Orton scored the pinfall victory over the WWE Champion, leading up to their Hell in a Cell match coming up in a few weeks. Charles Coleman with a $3 super chat says, how concerned are you that Vince will ruin Keith Lee? I'm relatively concerned, but we'll see. Maybe not. Thank you for the super chat. And Snipe Rider says they should have made Drew being pinned in over a year a bigger deal than happening on a Raw episode. That was his first time being pinned. That's kind of weird that I did not know that. Like, I'm just automatically thinking Drew has to have been pinned over the past year. But now that I'm thinking about it, I cannot remember the last time he was pinned. But yeah, you got Hell in a Cell coming up. Randy Orton has already lost twice to him. So you gotta do something here to build Orton up a little bit. So I'm actually okay with it. I'm feeling now that Drew will probably win Hell in a Cell. I got to see how the rest of the build-up goes, but Orton pinning Drew before the pay-per-view makes me think maybe, just maybe, Drew will end this feud still the champ. Interesting ending to the show for sure. And yeah, Raw was a very memorable show this week. Best Raw, I would say, since the Thunderdome era started. You had a big angle with Retribution, with Ali. I like where that's going. I just hope they get rid of the costumes and the names. And I like the stuff with Seth Rollins and Murphy, the breakup of them. I like the Randy Orton McIntyre stuff. I liked what they did with Shayna and Nia. A lot of good stuff on this show this week. I thought this was the first Raw in a while where it was productive and building up towards the future instead of just having a run-of-the-mill show with nothing to really talk about. So I'm going to give this show a B+, not quite an A. I want to see the follow-up. I'm still a little concerned about Retribution. I think it can be salvaged, but I'm not going to jump and say it's saved. I got to see the follow-up to it. I am intrigued, though. Giving it a B+. Jeremy Dorsett with an A-, Mr. Anderson with an A, Luis Ortiz with a B, D. Ross 2 with a C+, Mike B with a C+, Ace and his Familia Vlogs with an A-, CC Drink with a B, Amanda with an A, Dr. NXT Scorpio with a C, Israel Diaz with a C+, and Carl Apocalypse with a B+ for the T-Bar appearance. And TJS says C-, so not quite an F. Michael Wayne with a B-. Interesting. I'm seeing some A's, seeing some B's, and I'm seeing some C's for Raw. So not everybody loved the show and not everybody hated it. Seems like a mixed bag, probably a B average with everybody's letter grades in here, and I gave it a B+, so there you go. Good Raw, definitely worth checking out some of the main segments like the Rollins and Murphy stuff, Retribution Ali, And those were over several segments throughout the show, too. So really a good chunk of Raw, I would say, was worth watching this week. And it's not often I can say that. That was my thoughts on Raw this week. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please share a link to this video on social media if you get the chance. Spread the word. Make sure you like the video and tell a friend. Call somebody, email them, text them. Stay tuned to NoDQ.com for the very latest, and I will see you guys next time.